whatever you dream, you have to believe in it. Because these spirits that come and visit you in your sleep. They come over and tell you something. They either give you instructions. They even tell you what's gonna happen in the future.
Can I get moving to watch tomorrow? You know, Keisha go at Grandma. Tell me everything.
And the young people today should really learn to know and speak their language, because that is the survival of our people, is the language.
We can learn about our clan system, what clan we come from, who our clans are. You know, we can find that out. And then we can incorporate it into our family system, back into our family system.
So we try and have good times and do good things and be positive and keep negative feelings away. That's one of the reasons for the ceremony.
I didn't do a lot of things until I was older in life, you know, and that's from being away from Red Lake. You know, I came back home to do the things that I should have did as a young man. Getting my Indian name, killing my first deer, going to a ceremony, sweat lodge, all these things. I didn't do any of these until I came back home.
You say, what are traditions, you know? What in truth we're really saying, who am I? As you pursue your knowledge about the wisdom, you know, the traditions, and out of those traditions will give you the answer. Okay, bonjour. Kichuma ingan di sinikas. Abiting ganin tingi mitewego. Makwa any non do them. Hello. My surname is Larry Stillday. My bear is my clan. I was born here in Panama. It looks a lot different than it was 50-some years ago. I practice a lot of traditions, as many traditions as I can, but one of the first ones that I started with was the sweat lodge, and that I went through some number of years of mentorship, and where eventually that I call it given permission that I could do the sweat lodge ceremonies, and that really has become a very powerful source for my recovering from my own traumas, my experience in alcoholism, and just basically my overall recovery. And the other one is that since I've come back home, you know, is that I went back to the Medewin Lodge, which is a grand medicine ceremony, with my family, my uncle, you know, being the leader of this grand medicine lodge, you know, that I have been going to his lodge, and in that way, and also getting involved in sort of the giveaways, the offering of what they call bagijigewinan. These are the things that you offer, the tobacco and portions of your clothing, and either to the lake or take them out in a clean place out in the woods, and so did the meditating, in my prayer, pipe ceremonies, and then again the drum ceremonies, so I get involved in a lot of these, It was very awkward for me when I first started going back to them, because I was away from them so long, I had a lot of curiosity, so my curiosity would take me to the ceremonies, but once I get there, I can feel myself, my face gets just warm, because of embarrassment or shame and not knowing what was going on, but I persisted in attending them, and eventually I became comfortable and began to understand how the ceremonies were being performed. When you're asking me all these questions as far as traditions and stuff, your involvement in this, your inquiring about this, your desire to understand, your desire to learn, it is very reinforcing to us as a people. And for me, at this time in my life, I am really encouraged by the fact that young people like you are coming up and seeking this information, because when we talk about traditions, who am I, And once you get to understand, we're saying, when we say what are traditions, what in truth we're really saying, who am I? That will tell you, I am. This is who I am. And that's a wonderful feeling, As you pursue your knowledge about the wisdom, the traditions, and out of those traditions will give you the answer.
My grandma tell me everything. They go by many market of Pinochi, babies. They go down the neck and don't touch the babies. They go by Nazi ever. Down the neck to tap and get especially that little boy, a little boy. They go by many market. And my grandma comes in the evenings and she talks about all kinds of stuff. Okay, when I had that, when she was growing up, she did everything. Maybe I would have slept with him that night. Well, I was there about 14 days alone. Kind of afraid, but I know my grandma and my uncle's right by there. So 14 days, my mother came and they start talking to me. Don't you dare bother the berries. Don't bother them. No matter how good they look, he said. I'll take you out there sometimes in the afternoon, she told me. We just shared it. One night, my cousin came and slept with me. She came and slept with me, and she slept there on the ground there, and mattress. I heard something that's like somebody was walking around. Marina, honey, there's somebody out there. Where? They told me I'm scared more. Now they just picked a little ways there. He crawled out and there was a man standing there. Ah! There's a man. Yeah, then the boys come running, her brothers. So, they didn't know who that was. So I told my mother the next day she came, and why did you move in that house there? Nobody will bother you. There's everything in there, he said. Well, I moved in a house there, our house. And the afternoon I was looking at the papers and I could hear something. Look around and there was a great big porcupine up by the wall. And I started hollering, I ran out. My grandma came, "Honey and Dutch." Oh, Mom. What did they say? Porcupine. You're gonna walk on me?
She gone.
God. When then? Where put in? God. So she got somebody to come and get that thing out of it.
Well, my name is Chibinesi Kwe. That translates to Big Eagle Woman. And I belong to the Caribou clan, which is the Atik clan. Well, there are many traditions and teachings for young women. And one of the things that, the teachings that were always there for us when we're growing up is never step over anything. I learned that, or I was taught that when I was about 7, 8 years old, and I've always remembered that. And but of course, at that time, I didn't understand why we couldn't do it. But now, when you learn and live the culture, you get to understand why you cannot step over anything. You can't step over clothing or shoes, because that will harm that person. And also the young mothers, well, actually all women shouldn't step over young people, especially their babies. That's one of the traditions that I always remembered when I was growing up. Well, my parents always said, you don't step over my dad's traps or rifles or even the fishing nets. Because when a woman does that, then the animals or the fish won't go into the nets, and the animals won't go into the traps. I've always seen women wear dresses back home. And I've always seen my mom wear dresses, even right when she was working in the woods. And I think I rarely seen her wear pants, even my grandmother. Well, of course, when time has changed, and now, a lot of women wear pants now. But for Native women, in any ceremony you go to, the women that are there are letting you know that the women have to wear dresses or skirts. Because when we wear skirts, that we are closer to the Mother Earth, and that the skirt represents also the family aspect of raising children, bringing up the families. And when you look at at our, our teepees. They're always round, or the dwellings that we lived in many years ago, and still do. We have some native people that still live in wigwams and teepees for ceremonial purposes. But when you go to a ceremony, even when you go see a medicine man for healing, we are always told to bring skirts or dresses. And when you go to sweat lodge, you have to wear a skirt or a dress. So that's who we are. That's what makes us women, is when we wear dresses. When you have your first moon time, that's the work, the teachings from your grandmothers, mothers, and your aunties. Look after the young women. When a young lady first has her moon time, she's taken into the woods. They build a little lodge for her, and there she stays. When she's done, then they bring her back. That way, she's not near the people, and she's there by herself. And when she's there, she's given dreams and visions, and those gifts that she gets while she's out there, those are her gifts that she has to carry on, and she gets teachings when she's out there. Like, she could become a medicine woman, and there she's told what she needs to do as she's growing up. But a long time ago, the women were chosen, and they had those teachings for them to use. The type of medicines that they use for various sicknesses. For someone has the flu, or they had, and there are many things that a woman really does. Along with being the mother and being a teacher to the families, and especially the women. See, the women were taught from an early age, and they always learn from the grandmothers. They're taken out into the woods. They start actually when they're 7 years old. The young girls, are taken into the woods, and the grandmother teaches them which plant, what plant you use for these sicknesses. And that's where her teaching starts, when she's 7 years old. Women shouldn't know when they have their moon time. Is you don't sleep with your husband, so you gotta kick him out of bed and send him to another room. That's one of the strongest teachings that a woman should always remember. As you don't, and then of course you're not supposed to cook or handle food when we're on our moon time. So that's very, very important for young women to know, and for men, of course, too. So for a man, when your woman is on her moon time, you don't touch her. So that's and then that should be an understanding between a man and a woman all the time. As that's very important, and you should never think of it, that's for old ways. That's an old teaching. But it's still, that old teaching is here today, and you should never disregard that teaching. That's a very delicate stage in a young woman's life when they're going to have babies or even start families. Of course, that's where the grandmother is always the one that helps with the granddaughter. And when a child is born, the very first thing that the families would do, especially maybe an aunt would take care or look after the afterbirth. When a child is born, you'll take care of that belly button part. That part of that cord comes off about when the baby's about a week old. And you save that and you keep that in a pouch. Many mothers or grandmothers have beaded that part. And you honor every part of the body or every part of the child, because those things are very sacred. Because a long time ago, it was the women that always looked after the children. You know, the females and grandmothers and aunties, they always looked after the babies. But now, what I've seen myself is that men are looking after their kids in a home. While maybe the woman or the wife is working. Or either that, whatever reason, the woman has left her children and her husband, and the man is there looking after the home and the kids. I've seen that, and I've learned. Some men that have looked after their children, raised their children. That's one of the changes I'm seeing today. And you have to look after those things. That is very, very important to do. That way, when you keep that belly button part and you look after it and keep it as long as it's supposed to be with that child forever. That way, why you keep that belly button is that child will kind of well behaved, or that part of that child is still there intact. If you don't do that, that's why sometimes you see babies looking around. They'll be digging into cupboards and just tearing everything apart or just looking around. They say that when kids do that, it means that they're looking for a part of themselves, and that part is that the part of their life is that belly button. The man is not allowed to be in the birth of their child, and that's one of the teachings I got from my parents, especially my dad too. And because when a woman is giving birth, the blood is very strong, and the blood is a very sacred part of the person. And if the man is exposed to that some way, that man can get sick. And I believe that very strongly. The cradleboard, in our language we call that a tikinagan. Well, when we were back home, we were brought up in a tikinagan. I've seen my relatives, and younger brothers being put in a tikinagan, and that tikinagan played a very important role in raising the family or the babies. That way, when the baby was in the tikinagan, you know, that the child would, it was a learning place for the baby. Because there, you know, he would listen for everything, hear everything, and see everything around him and in front of him. And the mother was never far away from the baby. So the child watched and seen the mother do everything. And even when the mother was working around outside, you know, the child was there in the Tikinagan. And then when you have to go someplace, you know, you're always traveling, either in a canoe or in a sleigh. You know, the baby was kept secure and in one place. So the Tikinagan was a teaching place for the child, and also that the child was kept, you know, being in a board, you know, kept straight, you know, in one place. You know, when you look at Tikinagan now, it doesn't look very uncomfortable, does it? Get all tied in one place. Can't move. All you see is your eyeballs moving. No, but that, you know, Tikinagan really puts the baby in place. You know, a baby is there in a Tikinagan when they're about a year old. Nowadays, you know, when you see babies, when they start running around, crawling around, and you take them someplace and you just have to, you're forever chasing them. You know, and when they're in the Tikinagan, you know, they're close to you, you know where they are. So, and of course, you know, if you had a Tikinagan, you see that board or that protector part where you sometimes, while you carry the baby. Also that, you know, protects the baby, you know, if the baby happens to roll over, starts moving around, and if that cradle board falls over, then that protects the baby, as it's like a guardrail for the baby. So, you know, Tikinagan should be used today, in today's society. They should go back to using it. Our young mothers should start using that, because it's a very important part of raising the baby. But with the dream catcher, where the language is our identity, and of course that's our culture, our way of life. And I'm glad, you know, I still have my language. I can talk fluently and understand the language. The native people from Panema and here, Red Lake, and Mille Lacs, and all those other surrounding Ojibwe reservations, I can understand what, you know, when they speak the language. And I'm way up in Canada, but even though there's different dialects, you can still understand the language itself. The language is who we are. And when also when you do ceremonies, and when you do doctoring and healing, it is very important to speak the language, because you know, that connection is there. The language also is your name, and when you say your name in a language, that's your identity. So the language is very, very important, and the young people today should really learn to know and speak their language, because that is the survival of our people, is a language. If you have the heart and desire to learn your language, you will. You know, we've had Indian names from way, way back. You know, why do we have English names today? You know, when we first encountered the Europeans, well, of course, you know, there was a language barrier, if you can think way back. And our Indian names come from a ceremony. When you go see medicine people, if you're going to get doctoring done, they'll always ask you for what your Indian name is. So that way, when you get when the doctoring is being done on you, then whoever does the healing will, will know you by that name. And, that's your connection to who you are as an Anishinaabe person.
Later, the spirits, the things we get, that was put on Mother Earth for us to use. Food, equipment. By using these rocks, the wood, the water, all that. It's right there. And one of the things is the dreams, but you're always asking for forgiveness, that we're gonna do it, and ask the spirit to fix it the way it's supposed to be done. That's how we do that.
What's your name?
My name is Frank Dickinson. I'm Red Lake. I was born in 1930, and I've been here most of my life, except for the 21 years I was gone. And I belong to the Medewan Society. I fasted for 6.5 years. I fasted. I was a lodge keeper for 4.5 years, so I know a little bit about the way. So where I go from here, who knows? Okay. Is that it? Long time ago, if you're talking about tradition, you have to go back a long ways. Long time ago, whenever there was courting, it was done in a very respectable way. That you just didn't walk up to a woman and you start dating. It didn't work that way. Even when you go to powwows, that is when the women pick out their men, you see. And they do it in a very respected way, is that whenever they're dancing, they dance in front of a man that they want. They dance in front of my man. And that was her choice. That's what she chose to be with. And if the guy said no, it was kind of disrespectful. You had to get also approval from your parents when you did that. Both parents had to give the okay. So it wasn't just one-sided. If one disagreed, then it would chop it off. That relationship would be done. There's a way that we've done years and years ago as our tradition, and now we have to have grand entries. We never had grand entries before. Grand entries were like in rodeos. And if you look back at the rodeos years ago, they had grand entry rodeo people coming in, and who would come in behind them would be the people dancing. And so that's how it came about, having grand entries. And now we use grand entries now our way, and that we don't have to do that, but we do it, you know. So our own way has been changed and is kind of been lost. When you have the old way, it's when you have the women come in dancing. Then you have the old man speaks. He walks around and just talks about the traditions and culture and that kind of stuff, and informs the people about this dance and why we're doing this gathering. That is his job to do that. So yeah, we've come a long way in disregarding the rightful way to do things traditionally. So then when you have our songs, we have our own traditional songs here. Red Lake. Red Lake used to be like the capital world of Indian singing a long time ago. I remember when you used to come together in the first, second, third, and fourth 4 days, they would sing songs and they'd have giveaways and healing ceremonies before the public began. Yeah, and then everybody singing songs. You see. There's a time when you do that for a young boy. You do that when he's becoming a man. His voice is starting to change, and you may want to take him out. You may want to take him out to go fasting for 1 day, and then that 1 day is that you take him up when the sun is coming up, and then when you get done to the whole day, that child learns how it is to not to eat or to drink. And he sleeps for 1 whole day, and you bring him back to the community when the sun's going down again. So that's 1 whole day that a child is learning how to be a young man. You see. So there's a lot of things that he must do. And then when you talk about that also is that whenever you're growing up, there's that one part there where you become a young man. And even though you're 12 years old, you say you're still a young man. And then when you do, you have to learn, like it's learning all over again from that point. And by learning is when you listen. And the teachings that come out of that is very important. And that you carry it on to your whole life. When you get married and have your own family, your teaching is there for you to do. To give you an example, like I think I told it last time, is that when you kill a first deer, I think I killed my deer when I was about 11 years old. And so anyway, when you do that, you learn how to gut a deer. You learn how to give tobacco, and you learn how to take care of that deer as a young boy. And then when you get that, you don't gut that out. You don't take care of that. Your parents, our grandmother does that. Like skinning it, taking care of that. And then when you get your first deer, you have a giveaway. You have a giveaway, and you give all the meat away. Then you have a feast, and you have elderly people getting up and talking for you, and they're praying all the time. And so that's part of also our values and our traditional way. And it's really nice. I can't explain how you feel when you're a youngster like that. You get so high of that things that's happening is that you can't even sleep, because it's so spiritual and so motivated to live, I can't explain how that feeling is. Also naming ceremonies. Naming ceremonies is just like baptism. If you have an Indian name, then you use that when you pray. You put your tobacco down and you say your name. Anything you do, you say your name as identity. So if you have a clan, you belong to a clan, you have a big family. You're all one big family, you see. And so, and in that family, in that clanship, you can't intermarry. That's like marrying your brother or your sister. So if I belong to you clan. If I went to let's say for instance I went to Canada, and I met some people that belonged to the clans, Eagle clan. And all of a sudden, we become very close. Because we're a family, you see. So any clan that you got here, you go any place, you're going to be a family, you see. Yeah, it's very wonderful to be a Shinabi, I think.
Is spirituality. I know a lot of people say, well, they believe in the Indian way, but they don't follow it. They just say, I believe in the Indian way. There's a lot to it. The first thing that we've done here, we did that a couple years ago, or last year, is these people that live right here in this house here. Then there's another house down the end. We had to go talk to them first, and we had to get permission to even enter this area right here, because this is one of the original sugar bush camps or areas, that exist on Red Lake Reservation. We had to offer tobacco before we start tapping the trees. Then we had to make an offering, and I was told that you got to make the offering, at the start of the sugar bush camp. We call it sugar bush camp. So that's what we had to do. And the type of food that is offered, for the sugar bush camp is all traditional foods. And so I picked 4 traditional foods that are indigenous to our people, and cooked them up and brought them out here, put them in a paper plate. I don't use styrofoam, so nobody used styrofoam. Put them in a paper plate and brought it out here and built a fire and talked to the sugar bush and the spirits and the creator. Thanking the creation for these trees. Because if you really think about it, all these trees have life just like us as human beings. So I have to give thanks because we're going to tap the trees. This is the type of drill that used to be used, to tap all the trees. So you got to stand there and tap like 100, 200 times, drill holes this far in. But I did 20 trees with this by myself. This is the type of bag that I use. It's pretty thick. And here's some taps I was telling you about that I carved, out of sumac. You can push wire right through there. This bag here is what we tie onto the tap. And I got these little fuzzies at Walmart. Last year I used string, but this year I use these little wire fuzzies because you don't have to tie them. Okay, I was telling you, they use the axe, and put a chop in the tree. Then they switch to these, and these this is a lot of hard work to stand there. You get all sweaty, drilling the trees, But like I said, I'm moving with the times, me. This is what I use. Today's ways, of tapping trees really hasn't influenced my way of thinking at all, because the main thing is making sure that you do the offering and giving thanks for what is here. So that's why it really hasn't influenced, my way of thinking. But we've had a lot of good times in being out here. usually when people come out and help, it's not really a big job because, once you get everything set in place, it's just a matter of keeping fire, making sure that everything's strained. We got to strain all the sap. We have to strain the syrup even. And we have a lot of people that come out, and visit, and we even have a meal out here, like maybe in a couple of weeks. We'll have, last year my sister turned, well, we had 2 or 3 of them out here. Because, it's so peaceful and people like this, I don't know what it is, but, people like this, they just appreciate, when, I don't know, they don't want to do it though, but, but they come out here and they just appreciate, what's going on. And some of the older people start telling stories, about a long time ago, about back in the 30s or whatever, when they were doing the same thing. So we try and have good times and do good things and be positive and keep negative feelings away. That's one of the reasons for the ceremony. Just the way it is, But I enjoy this, like I said, I'm not a veteran of this. This is my 5th year doing it. And I've learned a lot in the 5 years that I've done it.
My name is Rupert Downman Jr. That's my English name. My Indian name is Nijo Banes Yogamaoki, which means 2 eagles are 2 thunderbirds, chief of the earth. And the role of that, of making the clothes and stuff, was the woman's job. And a lot of women don't do this kind of work because right now it is a dirty job. But the thing I think that motivates me is the end product. When you see what you've done, and then you think back, this is the same thing that my grandfather and my grandmothers and everybody else participated in maybe 100, 150 years ago. It gives you a real good feeling of like belonging to something, like connecting to old ways or something. Tradition, I guess it goes on, it takes a lot of different meanings for a lot of different people, but the main thing for me is carrying on something that's prideful, that you can take pride in. Like your Indian name, getting an Indian name, fasting, and all these things that are important to young people. These are traditions that belong. You take a sense of belonging, that they belong to you. So that's what a tradition means to me. I really don't think they're lost. I was telling you before, I didn't do a lot of things until I was older in life, and that's from being away from Red Lake. I came back home to do the things that I should have did as a young man, getting my Indian name, killing my first deer, going to a ceremony, sweat lodge, all these things. I didn't do any of these until I came back home, and to say that the traditions are gone, I don't think so. They're always going to be there. It's just how much heart you have to look for them. Okay, when you go in stages, like I said, this is the raw material right here. The second step is soaking it for about 3 to 4 days. You can go and test it. Pull on that hair. If it slips off, it's ready to come out. And if you change your water every day, it doesn't get as really smelly and bad as some hides do. Second process is stringing it up. And we'll start the third here in a second. There, grab that and spin it. Bring your end around that way. All the way around. Okay. This is a tool I made myself out of a car spring. A long time ago they used the front leg of a moose. It was at an angle like this. Like that. That's how they used for scrapers. Long time ago. But this is another one of my own little inventions. This is called fleshing. It's one of the worst parts of, whoop. You gotta watch how much pressure you put on it too. But right away you start seeing a difference in the hide after you get some of this stuff off it. Cool will probably be good for about a couple more hides. I told this joke with them. I was doing a workshop in Mille Lacs, brain tanning like this. There's about 8, 9 non-native people there, you know, and it says that when you tan a doe hide, it's always softer. I don't know why that is, but and it always seems easier to tan a doe hide than a buck. This year, I'll have all this done in about an hour. Dehaired and fleshed in about an hour.
How long did you soak it in the water?
3 days. About 3 days. It ain't nothing here, just water. A lot of people use ashes, but I don't use it. I think it weakens the hide. You guys want to do the bottom?
Yeah, they will. Now, is there with the hide, does the age of the deer make any difference? Young, old, it's all...
No, a buck hide too is thicker than a... And take those, there you go. Just come right to the loops. Yeah, well just one at a time and then hook it back on the nail. Kind of zigzag it too. You can tie that one if you want and then grab another one.
Even those scents.
But now it's so much more, everybody does it.
Kids are doing there, when they're done with that, fleshing and dehairing, this is what it'll look like when you're done with that after it dries. It'll dry like this. That's after you take all that hair and everything off. This is what you end up with. This is the final step in the brain tanning. Like I said, it takes about a week to get out a quality hide, quality piece of leather. This is called braining, brain solution. I use 3 pints of brain to a gallon of water, about a gallon and a half of water. What you have to do, I'd recommend if anybody's gonna ever try this, is not to cook the brains in the house, because it's got an odor that doesn't seem to want to leave. So I always cook it outside. And you got to cook them, you got to heat them up to break down all the oils and stuff that are in the brain. But you all seen how rugged those hides looked and how awful they smelt and everything? Oh, wow. But this is the leather. This is going to be the leather. And this, I don't know about what this is about the brain, but it attracts flies worse than and the dirty hide does. The process now is the fibers in a hide are like just like any other thread. They're all like woven together like this, and that's the way it is now. Everything is soft and wet. That's why it's flimsy like this. But what you're going to do now is you're going to work this hide and just stretch. Just work it as much as you can. Don't let it get hard on you. Break up the fibers. Even do this here, little things like this. But this is the hardest job I think of the whole thing is they call this the blood and guts of the brain tanning. Because once you start doing this, you can't let it dry, because it'll go right back into the rawhide stage. But once you break these fibers up by working it, once you break these fibers, they'll be like this. And when it gets wet, they won't go back together. So that's how you got your soft leather. And the more you work it, the softer your leather will be.
Whatever you dream, you have to believe in it. Because these spirits that come and visit you in your sleep. They come over and tell you something. They either give you instructions. They even tell you what's gonna happen in the future. Even he can take you back in the past, what had happened to the present. You gotta believe that. One of the things that's really lacking in the whole reservation, we talk about the drum ceremonies. We have all kinds of churches, Red Lake, Ridley. Then we got one here in Panema. As the Indian people, when they have their drum ceremony, they call it spring ceremony. It's just like going to church. We talk about the Creator, spirits involved. We ask Him for life because they gave us these tools to use to do that. Tobacco, pipes, even songs, to use. In the spring and the fall. Then you have those all the ceremonies that goes on throughout the year. What do you call a Thanksgiving ceremony? We thank